Here. Thank you. Please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first item is approving the minutes from September 10th, 2024. I have a motion by Commissioner Taylor and support from Commissioner Nelson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Our minutes are approved. It's approving the agenda. I have a motion by Commissioner Nelson and support from Commissioner Taylor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Our agenda is approved. We move to communications. There are a number of items under Oh, thank you. We move to our first public comment. This public comment is for items on the agenda. Is there anyone from the public wishing to talk about items on the agenda? Seeing none, this public comment is closed. Under communications, there are a number of items. The first is an amendment to the Michigan Department of Corrections and Office of Community Corrections grant. The next is a grant application to the Dickey Foundation for drone support equipment. The third item is the August intake disposition report from our animal shelter. The next three items are amendments, the first to the Michigan Mental Health Court Grant Program, and then our drug treatment work program, two different amendments. Does anybody have any questions on communications? Commissioner Cabell?
I just, when the sheriff comes and talks, would like to learn about what the Dickey Foundation is. And when looking at their application, it talks about diving and also drones. So wondering if we're using the drones for our marine patrol or if that was like a typo for the narrative paragraph.
Well, what I read was a $9,000 grant generally for maintenance. The drones, these drones respond to water rescues.
Cool. Would like to learn more from them when they're up to talk.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Erickson Galton, support from Commissioner Nelson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Communications are approved. We move to our circuit court recommendations. There are two items. The first is a grant acceptance from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services for the fiscal year 2025 child parent legal representation. And the second item is an amendment to the interlocal agreement with Oakland County Health Network for adult treatment and juvenile courts.
Aye.
Oh, I need a motion. I have a motion by Commissioner Nelson and support from Commissioner Taylor, and welcome.
Hi, hello everyone. So pretty simple things here today. We're hoping to have approval to move forward with the CPLR, the Child Parent Legal Representation grant for our second year. Well, really our year and a half, we only had a half year of 24. But in 25, we hope to continue with that program. We did just get permission from DHHS to also have 25% reimbursement on the monies that we spend for appellate representation for the neglect and abuse cases. So we're looking forward to expanding it a little bit in FY25. We have set amounts for continuing education for attorneys that represent clients in the abuse and neglect area. And we have also had our first ancillary services provided under this grant. So that was great to be able to help a parent who needed assistance in gaining custody of their child and changing things with FOC. We were able to appoint attorneys for 3 dads who were able to be served under this grant. So we're excited that with the work that we're doing under it and that it's helping youth and families in our community. With your permission, we'll expand that grant for continuing it into FY25. And then we also, for the second item, for our Oakland County or Oakland Community Health Network contract or interlocal agreement, We are continuing at the same funding levels for one more year. I do plan on meeting with them because they have expressed to us that they may need increased money after this year. So I expect that we'll be looking to increase that for the following year, but for this year, our not to exceeds remain the same. And we're really just expanding that and continuing the services they've been providing for our adult treatment court, juvenile mental health court, and juvenile drug court.
Thank you. So CHN has made comments to date about increasing salaries, wages,
Yeah,
the
actually.
amount in their contract for next year?
Yes, they said that really their pricing structure isn't representative of the true cost of services that they're providing. And so I asked that we meet earlier than later for next year. So, because we apply for our grant money from SCAO, by April, May. So I asked them if we could meet, and we've decided in January, we will take a review of where they are and then start building that into those grants for next year or into our budget that we normally would submit in April or May.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding these two items? Commissioner
Well,
Gershenson?
regarding these two items, that last one, just keep us up to date. Don't wait until the budget. Keep us
Absolutely.
up to date as you, and there was something else you mentioned in the budget that I wanted to follow up with you privately, but if you would give me a
Sure.
call.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, would you prompt the vote, please?
Yes.
We have 7 yeas, 0 nays.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Everyone. And again, I just like to put in a plug that for anyone who's interested in learning more about these grants, more about our court services or the court in general, please contact me. We would love to provide that for you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
All right, next three items are from Health and Human Services. The first is the Housing Trust Fund, Vester Flat Mixed Income Housing Development Project in the City of Ferndale. The next two items are grant acceptance. The first from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy Fiscal Year 2025 Local Health Department Reimbursement Grant. The second grant acceptance is from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Pontiac Integrated Urgent Care Grant. Who would like to make a motion? A motion by Commissioner Powell, support from Commissioner Cavell. So welcome. It's like we have the A-team here today.
Oh,
Take that,
I love it.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, we'll just introduce really quickly Ann Stafford, Director of Health and Human Services.
Khadijah Walker-Fobbs, Officer of Neighborhood and Housing Development.
And Kyle Hines, Housing Trust Fund Manager. And I'll be leading you through kind of an update of where we're at on our various Housing Trust Fund projects, and then the next one that will be under consideration by this body. So with that, to date, we have 7 mixed income housing developments fully approved by the Housing Trust Fund Board and the Board of Commissioners. That totals 518 units, 389 of them are reserved between 30 to 80% AMI. That's area median income, and I can provide everybody with a chart for updated for 2024 if you would like it later after this meeting. This represents a $15.6 million investment of ARPA SLF RF funds as well as county general funds. It represents a total investment of over $132 million into affordable, attainable, and mixed income housing throughout the county. In August, the Housing Trust Fund Board recommended to the BOC a $3 million investment into the Vester Flats project, which I will go over later in the presentation. I'll also say that the housing division also invests home investment partnership funds into rental development projects that are also underway and under construction in various places throughout the county. So wanted to give an update on Housing Trust Fund projects that are under construction. As Leanne said to me out there in the hallway, that if you didn't hear about this groundbreaking for our Walton Oaks neuro-inclusive development in Rochester Hills, then I'm glad you're here today to hear about this. But this is 11 for-sale homes. 3 of them will be reserved for intellectually and developmentally disabled adults to provide a for-sale housing option that will provide permanence for them and their families, because that's one of the biggest concerns for IDD families is what happens when their family and loved ones have passed and where do they stay? They now have a permanent option, and the actual IDD units will be deed restricted in perpetuity through a housing homeowners association. So there's actually a separate board and committee to handle any issues that come up with the IDD family. So it's a very exciting project. As you can see, the three people in the yellow vest are actually 3 of the homeowners. Some of them will actually be cohabitating in one of the IDD units, and then our fearless leaders there also join them. If you're driving down Walton, you can see it from the road. They just kind of cleared out the path, and we'll be ready to hopefully. I forget what they said occupancy would be, like maybe 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
But we'll be back out there for the ribbon cutting, and it'll be fantastic. If you wanna go to the next one. And then also under construction is Westwood South. This is 72 unit mixed income multifamily development. They've gone vertical on 2 of the 3 multifamily buildings that are on site. This is the second phase of the Westwood property that's on Gulf Drive near the Pace Southeast facility, kind of by Menards off of Telegraph on the border of Pontiac and Bloomfield Township. The first building is actually anticipated to see a certificate of occupancy in the first quarter of 2025. So Khadijah and I are actually going to be walking the site because they have their second draw into us and so we'll be touring that this afternoon. I've been out there multiple times, and these guys are rocking and rolling on that construction. So pretty pumped to see this moving right along. They'll also have 18 housing choice or project-based vouchers in that property if you do recall. So we're adding actually new voucher units in a mixed income type of property.
And a new build.
And a new build, which is fantastic. And they'll accept housing choice vouchers on the rest of the units as well. So the housing trust, the other projects that have been approved, as I mentioned, will be closing by December 2024. That's Wellspring. That's the 72 units, affordable units reserved for residents in recovery from opioid addiction. That's in Southfield. Royal Oak Cottages, 32 scattered site, single family rental development in Royal Oak Township that will actually activate long vacant sites that are actually owned by Royal Oak Township. Oakland Woods will be the preservation and modernization of 216 senior affordable units in Pontiac. That's the Presbyterian Villages property on Updike. And 111 Oneida is a rehab of a vacant historic 50-unit workforce housing community in Pontiac. We have a closing date tentatively set for October 15th, and we're all working together to get that going. And I'm very excited to get that project underway because that's been vacant forever, so we're excited about that. And then Auburn Oaks is the sister project to the Walton Oaks. That's going through the final site plan approvals with Rochester Hills, and that'll be breaking ground once the ground thaws in March. Fingers crossed. We're all hoping for that. So, next slide. So the project under consideration today is Vester Flats. This is a 72-unit mixed income, mixed use development located at 141 Vester Avenue in Ferndale. It's basically the corner of 9 Mile and Woodward. 100% of the units will be reserved for 50% AMI to 120% AMI, and they'll also have just over 1,600 square feet of community retail space, which you can see is the front corner there, which is right off of Vester, about a block in from Woodward.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sure.
How is it that I thought federal had kind of nicked that with that, the mixes? Why is this one, cause when that is 50% 120 considered affordable, correct? Why are we doing 100% here and then we got the 2080 or the 3070 with some of the other projects as far as affordable and market rate?
It's a good question, and a lot of it comes down to the funding sources. Tax credit deals are much more difficult to have them pencil with higher levels, with a more deeper set of market rate units, because you lose the tax credits, you don't get as many tax credits for the properties that have, because you only get tax credits if for 60% AMI units and below. So to get that equity that you need to make the project feasible, you have to have a lot more affordable units. In this case, they're not actually using tax credits. They basically have our below market long-term subordinate debt, a loan from MEDC, and then the rest of it is just private equity and regular debt.
So is it that it's also happening because Ferndale is open to those projects where Pontiac has chose not to do any more 100% affordable? Is that, or is that something we need to talk offline? Cause
that might be, because they're
I'm just
also.
trying to get an understanding, cause I know our community don't want it. We see what that is dangerous, putting all affordable, and it didn't work.
Yeah, and I would
That's
say,
why-
yeah.
You know what I mean? So we can talk offline so I can understand, but I just thought this was something federal government was encouraging, that we do mixed use, mixed income moving forward because of the bad traumas of like the projects back in the day when they used to cul-de-sac all of us in affordability, and we see the troubles that come with that.
Yeah, and just to kind of speak to that, I would say that 100% and 120% AMI, it's deed restricted for that, but like the market rates for those units aren't gonna even hit 120% AMI.
Got it,
So
okay.
so in the event that we see even more rapid increases in rents, at least those units will never be able to surpass the 120% AMI rent, but in all honesty, like 120% unit, and that's why like the housing trust fund funds that are going here, those will be restricting the 50 to 80% units, because at
Got it,
120% AMI, you can pretty safely afford some sort of house, maybe not like in Ferndale proper, but like you can buy a house and start that investment.
Got it, okay.
And so when we look at it, like the 111 Oneida is technically all affordable, but that is reserved for 80% to 120%. So we actually get to have some market comps to grow the rents to be able to support the new development of other things. So depending on the market that you're in, you don't wanna do super deep affordability like we saw and what was done in Pontiac for the longest time. But in Ferndale, we wanna get deeper affordability because it's an extremely, rapidly increasing.
Okay.
Yeah, so and like I said, it's really a project by project basis on what actually is economically feasible and what's best for the community.
I just don't want any other community to be in such a situation too, because it didn't work in Pontiac.
Yeah.
Don't bring that to no Ferndale, don't bring that to Rochester, because it doesn't work when it's certain individuals that, you know what I mean, all to get, no, that's what we're trying to stop.
Yeah, and we're not doing that.
Okay,
Like I've had conversations with people and said, we're not doing that.
Got it, okay, thank you.
So, but thank you, those are great questions and super fun policy, well, sad, but fun policy decisions, like say, hey, how do we do this better? And that's
Yeah.
what we're trying to do now.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
So as I said, it's a 72 unit mixed income multifamily development. The funds and the SLRF funds that we're putting into it, our deed restrictions on the property will be for the 50% to 80% AMI units, just because I wanna get some affordability below market rents, so that's what we'll be supporting. It's a $22.5 million development. The Housing Trust Fund Board, like I said, recommended $3 million in gap funding on August 21st. Because it's $3 million, that requires a full approval of the Board of Commissioners, and that's why it's here before you today. The City of Ferndale is in process of providing a pilot and zoning and finalizing the zoning change for the property. I've actually spoken to the Ferndale City Council and answered some of their questions about the property already. MEDC is providing a community revitalization program loan as well, and then the rest is just private equity and traditional debt that the developer is bringing to the project. As we talked about, there's rapidly increasing housing costs in Ferndale and southeast Oakland County, so that's why we're very supportive of bringing this affordability there. And then a key component and something that's very exciting is that this is definitely a transit-oriented development. It's 300 feet from a high-frequency smart bus stop at the corner of 9 Mile and Woodward. So a resident living here could walk to that bus stop and ride smart to downtown Pontiac in 30 to 40 minutes and not have to change the bus. And they can also get to downtown Detroit, One Campus Martius in the same amount of time. And so we're being able to provide that type of transit mobility, and not actually have to have a car, because it's literally opening up the entire Woodward corridor via that transportation. We're excited about that. And then if you wanna just live and work and play in Ferndale, I mean, it's a 91 out of 100 walkability. So it checked a lot of the boxes. I mean, we have our health and social determinants of health. Yeah, they're not gonna be housing cost burden. They have that. There's economic development. They can live and work in their own community, but we also are checking off the transit boxes here. So it's a very exciting project. If you go to the next page, as you can see, there it is. It's building over a parking lot that's currently there and sometimes utilized, sometimes not. If you wanna go to the next slide. And that's kind of the backside of this, so you can see the parking's tucked under. They're building that nice paver walkway there. The community retail will be on the right side of your screen there. So yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, and then I always put these slides here, we don't have to rehash this, but who we're serving, those are the incomes of the folks that would qualify to live here. Go to the next one. And these are the people that make Oakland County work. These are the people that deserve to have housing in high opportunity areas near community amenities, transportation, and healthcare options. So I won't belabor it again, because I do that every time I come to this committee. So I think with that, we'll take any questions.
On the last slide, the first line was recreational protective workers. What is that?
I think that I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that would be like a park ranger.
It came from the Bureau.
It came from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Short, sweet, and to the point, so we like those kinds of presentations. With rapidly increasing housing costs in communities throughout Oakland County, can you remind us of the process the Housing Trust Fund Board utilizes to determine locations of these housing developments?
yeah, I mean, we have an open application that anyone can apply to at any time. At a certain point, we may, given because we're almost out of our ARPA SLRF funding, so we'll have more minimal resources, so we may put it into a deadline NOFA application process where we consider multiple projects at one time, and then the board will make their determination based on neighborhood and housing division or development staff scoring recommendations. But right now, it's if you have a project, come talk to us and we will try to find a home for it. If it's Housing Trust Fund and we have dollars available to support that, we'll work through the process. If there's another development, like we're working on utilizing our CDBG funds in a different way, if you have a renovation project, maybe we use our old CDBG money to pay for that. So right now, it's really developer driven. Like we react to what the market wants to do, because we don't just go out and I think the last thing anybody wants Oakland County to do is be like turn into a housing developer. So we want to work with our affordable housing development professionals, or even just Vestor Flats. This isn't an affordable housing developer. This is a developer that realized that, the project doesn't pencil without any sort of financial support, but it also works that it's a win-win, because we get affordable units and they get financial assistance to help make the deal pencil. Otherwise, nothing happens. And so we react to the market, where people can find land, that can be rezoned. That's a bigger issue. There's some areas may not want to rezone to a denser product and thereby making the project not economically feasible. So we react to the market, and that's kind of how we've been working through this so far.
Thank you. Could you just clarify, what is developer driven?
Oh, it means that it's not the county, it's not Housing Trust Fund Manager Kyle or Khadijah Walker-Fowles, housing officer, saying this is a site that we need to have housing on, and we're going to RFP it and say okay, because we don't really have control of land in that manner. So it's not county driven, it's developer market driven, and it's generally best practices on what you would like to do. with Commissioner Powell saying, we used to do it, like, we're gonna buy up all this land and we're gonna put like a whole bunch of affordable units in one little area, and the county makes that, or the government makes that decision. Not the best way to do it. So you wanna make sure that, one, we are putting it in responsible areas, and that's where we always try to get community buy-in. Like, this wouldn't be before you if Ferndale didn't express an interest in wanting to do this. So we make sure, one, we have the community buy-in, and then two, that it's economically feasible, because I don't think any of us wanna invest our federal dollars into projects that will eventually fail.
I see. Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Gershenson?
What's the balance in the trust fund?
If this project is approved, we will have $1.4 million of ARPA SLRF funds. The Housing Trust Fund Board did approve a project in Royal Oak that isn't fully funded. We don't have enough money for it because we'll have about $2.4 million of general funds that we need to retain for staffing, and I also want to make sure that we have, a fund in there to help with emergency situations if they were to arise. Say, my 4-unit rental property burned down and I need help rehabbing it, and if the Housing Trust Fund could allocate $25 million or $25,000 to help fix this. We want to be able to do that, so we just want to be able to keep our powder dry. But at present, we have 1.4. We don't have any money left, according to the board action.
So I'm wondering if you have a plan for the future. And also those 2 last slides, I would like to get a copy of. But at some point, we'd like to know what future is for your funding.
Yeah, we are working on a plan to go out and really try and figure out some private public funding to sustain us long term. So we started that work back in the summer, kind of knowing that these projects are moving forward. We've had a great response, and looking at different ways to continue that, but it is going to take, the support and kind of buy-in from both public and private, foundations, different avenues that we're gonna need to look at. So we are working on that, you'll definitely be hearing more, because we'll be coming to all of you to help get that messaging and that word out and make sure we've got the right people at the table. So that is in the works, because this has been successful, so we need more.
And I think once we get, apart from like looking at other ideas for revenue generation from various other activities that the county can do, just having a groundbreaking like we had at Walton, like every lender that was involved with that, or other ones that just were kind of like hanging out there
That
they
Walton
wanna-
Oaks project is unbelievable. The fact that you've got that designated space for, this is a new term for me, the neuro.
Inclusive, neuro-inclusive.
But I was very, very excited.
More to come with the second development will have even a larger, number of units, so we're really excited about that one. It is a model, really. It's making Oakland County a model for other communities on how to do this work, and we're already getting people asking questions in other counties and locations, so.
And that, just to give a frame of reference, that all that project required to get it off the ground, because it was it's for sale, so they'll have funds coming back to recoup our funds. We have that right now just in a short-term construction loan with them for 5 years. And so we put $500,000 into the Walton Oaks project. And the reason it didn't come here because it was below the threshold, so we just worked through that, and I'll give you the update now. But it's $500,000, and they'll repay it once the homes are sold, and then we can take those funds and then find the next Walton Oaks, and it'll be, we're very excited, because like I was saying, the bankers and equity funds that were participating in this have already reached out to us and said, how do we do the next one, or how can we help? And people have CRA credits that they gotta spend, so we're all working on it.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Thank you.
And I just want, this is less than 2 years, this team has brought this to the table. So, I mean, they have, when you say the A team, right, I mean, they, in the housing aspect, they have been amazing, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. Alright, next
Yes. It's a
item.
little less exciting, but still really exciting, right? Is our Eagle Grant. So these are our required programs that we must provide around our wells, septics, swimming pools. So if you don't know, let me tell you about a little bit about those programs. Is we monitor all wells that serve the public. So you'd be surprised, we still have about 800 wells in Oakland County that supply water to public buildings. And so they're required to monitor those if they have at least 25 people a day that enters that building. So we have a program where we do monitoring. We have to go out and look at those wells every 5 years to ensure that there's not been any kind of, any problems to them. We look at the full water system in there to make sure there's no cross-contamination. So we have 2 people that are dedicated to that program. And then they're required to submit water samples. So to ensure that the people that work in there on a daily basis are protected. We also do long-term monitoring. So if there's been contamination in an area, we're actually contracted by the state to go in and do usually quarterly samples around metals, right? Lead and copper, maybe arsenic, to ensure that those people in those communities are actually protected, that those contaminants are not moving in a certain direction that will contaminate wells. We do swimming pool inspections. It's still something, all the public swimming pool inspections get at least 1 and sometimes 2 inspections. That's indoor and outdoor inspections. We do campground inspections, and that's really looking at usually well and septic, and then the safety of playgrounds and things like that. And then septic inspections. So if you see the septic trucks that are pumping out septic tanks, that actually we're required to do inspections on those. So we are requesting to accept $684,000 for those programs to be able to continue to provide those services. Any questions on that one?
Those are valuable programs.
They are, very much so. And then the last one is our Pontiac Integrated Urgent Care. So if you remember, a while back, the state gave us $5 million to kind of get this project up and running. They're just giving us the money back. So we have to give it to them, and then they have to give it back to us because we haven't spent the full $5 million. So we spent about $2.5 million, just so you know, on the project. Currently, our biggest groups that are helping and partners with that are OLSA, Honor, and OCHN. So those are our 3 big partners. And so currently we're operating, just so you know, in the existing Honor community space, which is at Pontiac General. And so we have been open since May, very limited hours, right? Trying to be intentional about that integrated care as people walk in. We've seen just over 400 people in the integrated space. And so I just wanted to give you a few statistics because I know we like to think about that. So in the time period that we've done, we actually are seeing 50% more women than we're seeing men. And again, this can be primary care or mental health, right? So they can come in and they're assessed for both. The largest age group is 25 to 54 years old. About 37% do not have insurance. But on the other hand, 60% do, and it's from private to Medicare to Medicaid, right? We see the gamut. And about 67% of the residents are from Pontiac. But I will say it's all of Oakland County, which we did expect to see, right? We see quite a few from Waterford, Auburn Hills as well, but we have people coming from Detroit, right? So just seeing a gamut of people that are actually accessing those resources. Again, this is only a request for 1, but we will be coming back because they'll be giving us that additional $1.5 million in the next couple weeks, so.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell?
I was just gonna say, I'm like really excited about this center coming, and the location is just perfect as well, cause it kind of sits on that corner of, City Waterford, and Pontiac, and then just the Woodward Loop, and then the split on Dixie Highway, so to hear those different communities using it, it is great, cause it's on a major, third street through our city and stuff, or road or whatever. So I'm excited to see it once it opens. So thank you.
And we did extend the hours on September 15th. So we're working on a big communications campaign. So this is all just word of mouth right now, which to me is amazing. So we're working on a large communications campaign where we'll be talking about what's happening. We are gonna be moving locations, right? That's to be determined, right? We will, but it's still gonna be downtown and it's be very accessible, so that actually will be coming. But very excited, so we'll be coming back with more data for sure as we open up.
Are we still gonna keep the syringe, the.
Harm reduction?
The harm reduction, sorry.
Currently, harm
Are we
reduction
gonna-
is downtown Pontiac in the
Right,
storefront.
so because you all are like so close, are we planning to probably combine or no, keep that separate? Or that's something y'all still.
We're working on
Okay,
it, so why
that's
don't we
all-
have
that's
a
good.
separate conversation with
That's
you on that?
perfect, okay.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Commissioner
You know, I'm
Val?
asked, 'cause,
Thank you. I was, so you said 400 people came to this clinic in how long of a time?
So again, May till September, right? But they were only open in this integrated space where they collecting data, meaning walk-ins about 2 hours a day. So the goal was really this team to how could they work together? Because currently they work independently, right? They don't work together, and so they were very intentional about seeing clients and then working together to try to determine how to handle the client, and then meeting right after to say, okay, how can we do this different? So we expect, they only had one clinician, right, and one mental health provider. So again, limited amount of clients coming in, kind of worked out a lot of those kinks and opened extended hours. I will verify this, but I think it's 7 days a week now, and at least providing some on the weekends. So, but I will get that back to you all, because I think that started on September 15th.
Okay, so and just to make sure I'm understanding the flow of money, $5 million from MDHHS, so state,
Correct.
$1 million from ARPA, so
Correct.
federal,
Mhm.
and then this $1 more million from the state.
Nope, so the 5 million, they took back 2.5 because we didn't spend it by the end of this fiscal year.
Got it.
They just
Right.
allocated $1 million just to put a line item, but we'll be bringing the other 1.5, like any day now, we'll be getting it through our amendment, so. So it's the same 5 million, it's just how we've used it, so,
Okay.
yeah.
But then my main point of my question is that this is not funded with county money. It's state and federal
That's
dollars.
correct, yeah, we're, $1 million of it is ARPA, correct.
And so then, and how much of the health department's budget is federal versus local? What's that ratio?
Oh my gosh, I'd have to get that back to you, I'm not sure, sorry.
It's
I'll make sure I always have
66.33.
that.
It's 66.33. So every dollar we give the health department, we get $2 back federally. Just to reiterate that, their ratio is 66% federal, 33% local match. So if we give them $1, they get 2 from the federal. That's this. Okay. Thanks.
Any other comments?
Well, and then for the for the housing department, same sort of thing here. So with this housing development, you've gotten over 500 housing units either built or in process.
Correct, through the Housing Trust Fund.
Right.
There's other activity that we do, it's not
Yes.
Sure.
Housing Trust Fund.
And the housing trust fund is kind of to what Marcia was asking. Housing trust fund is entirely funded through ARPA money plus 2 million in state revenue sharing.
Correct.
Okay, just saying. Okay, thank you.
In annual appropriation.
Right.
3 million was from the housing trust fund for the last project.
Right.
Any other comments or questions? Would you prompt the vote, please?
I'm a yes. It didn't come up.
Did you hit the e-vote button?
No.
Thank you. Taylor?
I'm gonna say yes, but I'm trying to get it to come up. My screen is blank.
Okay, I'll come check in a second. You have 7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Verizon on that iPad?
They didn't want it.
Thanks,
Thank
Barbara.
you.
Our next item is a public service recommendation regarding a division name change from Community Corrections Division to Pretrial and Justice Services Division. Who would like to make a motion? We have a motion by Commissioner Nelson, support from Commissioner Erickson Galt.
That's right.
So, welcome. What would you like to tell us about this item?
I'd like to tell you as much as you'd like to know. But, I'm Eric Schmidt, I'm manager with Community Corrections. And so we fall, of course, under Public Services. And we're requesting to change the name for kind of a multitude of reasons. But mainly, we wanted to reflect our responsibilities, our priorities, right? Our mission of what we actually do, and really the vision and goals of our three main programs. And so in our pretrial services unit, our main mission is to maximize the release of individuals, maximize court appearance, and maximize public safety while we're also upholding pretrial justice. We also have a pretrial supervision program. And again, that mission is to enhance appearance rates for individuals that are released on bail and mitigate any new criminal activity in the community. And so we also have a sentence program, which is called our Step Forward program. And there we're looking at harm reduction of individuals, reducing recidivism, and trying to support every person that we serve as best we can. So when we look at the name corrections inside of the name of community corrections, it obviously has like a carceral type of tone. A lot of people think, whether that be stakeholders, partners that we're looking to work with in the community or other individuals, that we are a branch or an arm of either law enforcement or the courts, or something that we're just really not. We often get correspondence from the community actually to fix a traffic light or to stop a barking dog. Because they're thinking of it as in the community, who can correct this problem I'm having? So we get a lot of interesting correspondence. But mainly, when we looked at these principles, using evidence-based principles to work with people to keep them out of the criminal justice system, the term corrections also has a connotation of oversight in a way that in other states is probation-based. So again, not what we do, right? We do work in collaboration with those entities, but it's not really our makeup and our vision and our mission. So when we looked at changing the name, we worked with our staff, we worked with our Community Corrections Advisory Board. We really spent a lot of time wordsmithing and looking at how do these words, pretrial and justice services reflect what we do. And we felt that in the many different names that we could come up with, this one really was succinct. It hit the mark, and everyone that we worked with felt that it was a great change to make. And so when we look at the other side of this, which is what expenses are involved in changing a name, right? There are some hoops to jump through. There's some things to look at. But when we look at what I think would be the most expensive part of the project would be signage, right? External signage to the public. I've included some pictures of the two buildings that we are located in. The South Oakland building in Troy, there is no external signage. There's a sign out by the road that simply indicates that it's a county building. The entities within that building are vast, and it's a long list. That's why there isn't external signage. But inside there are different placards depending on which way you go. They're very small, they're about the size of a sheet of paper, and those are easily within our printing budget to have facilities make a new sign. At the Oakland Point office, there is an external sign as you're about to enter the building, again, not out by the road, but up front by the security station, where it does say Community Corrections, but directly underneath that it also indicates WHAM/Step Forward. And the community members that we're serving that actually come to our office are part of the Step Forward program. So again, if the sign remains as it is, which I would argue we should leave it that way, because we are slated to move to downtown Pontiac. So the sign actually already indicates the Step Forward program, which the public needs to know as far as this is the building for them to enter to reach us. And so external signage would be deferred to the move to Pontiac, no external signage down at the Troy building, and then just some small placards internally. So with that, I'll take any questions, but that's the reason behind our name change.
It is, has a more positive connotation
It does.
when you say justice services to it. So thank you.
It does.
Any other comments or questions, Commissioner Cavell?
Yeah, Eric,
Sure.
do you have rough numbers for how many people your three programs serve in a year? Just like guesstimations?
Yeah, so bail recommendations, we're gonna fall maybe just short of 11,000 this year. That's close to a record number. Supervised release is roughly 6,000. And then our sentence program is approximately 900 people.
Okay. And so with those roughly 11, 17, 18,000 people, what is the breakdown, again, round numbers of your local county money, general fund, and your state grants and all that?
Sure, so we receive a Michigan Department of Corrections grant each year. I'll be coming before this committee shortly with that acceptance. This year it'll be just shy of $2.2 million, and our general fund budget is just short of $6 million.
Cool.
So,
Thank you. Right.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, would you prompt the vote, please?
Yes for me.
Christensen?
Yes.
Cook? 7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Thank you for the information.
thank you.
All right, next items are Sheriff's Office recommendations. The first is from the state, a notice of limits for fiscal year 2025 state and local overtime reimbursement from the Federal Bureau of Investigation for the Joint Terrorism Task Force. The next is another notice of limits from the state and local overtime reimbursement from the Federal Bureau of Investigation for the Gang and Violent Crime Safe Streets Task Force. The next two are amendments. The first to an interlocal agreement with Oakland Community Health Network for the medication assisted treatment program physician reimbursement. The next amendment is also an OCHN MAT expansion program. The next item is the polygraph services contract, and the last item is an amendment for the Pontiac School District for the 23-24 school resource officers. I would entertain a motion. I have a motion by Commissioner Erickson Galt, support from Commissioner Powell.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, so the first item is the annual reimbursement, overtime reimbursement from the FBI for the Joint Terrorism Task Force. The limit this year is $21,740.50. We have one sergeant assigned to this task force.
Thank you.
The next item is similar, but it's for the Gang and Violent Crime Safe Streets Task Force. It's our annual FBI overtime reimbursement, and this is actually for 2 detectives assigned to the task force, so the total is double, it's $43,481. The next one is our 2025 agreement with OCHN. This continues our MAT program in the jail that provides in-county treatment for opioid use disorders. It's 60% of a full-time casework specialist position, so they're providing $67,445. Formerly the Community Corrections Program, or should I say Pretrial and Justice Services Division, their grant that Eric just mentioned used to provide the other 40% funding, but we're actually changing that this year, and that will be part of the MAT expansion, which is our next item. So the next item is our amendment to the interlocal agreement with OCHN. This is for the MAT program expansion, which covers out-county inmates that have opioid use disorders. So the original not to exceed of this agreement was $433,096. It's still the same from the opioid settlement fund, but we kind of moved the funding around where we noticed where we were spending and where we had extra dollars, and so that 40% for that MAT position is coming out of this fund now. And that's what the amendment covers. The next item is approval of a contract for polygraph services. This was prompted by a retirement of one of our detective sergeant specialists that performs these services. I think it was a little bit sooner than we thought, so by the time we got somebody in training, he's been to training, but he has to have supervised polygraph exams up to a certain amount. So we actually asked for funding in our budget request this year, which was approved. So we have it for 2 years. We hope that he's trained in that amount of time, and then he'll be fully certified and be able to perform them on his own. So this is just approval of that contract. And the final item is an amendment to the Pontiac School District agreement for school resource officers, and they've requested to add a patrol sergeant position to their agreement.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell?
So just to be clear, the school district, I looked at it have the the board voted, or they're waiting on us to vote here and then it'll go back to them for approval? Or have they already went through their approval?
They've approved it
Okay.
and requested it,
So the
yes.
board and the superintendent sent us a notification to request another officer that they are covering the bill for the 3 patrols to be in their school.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear for my community because I do understand that some people do have concerns of how many police officers we may have in a school district, but I'm well aware of some of the challenges that we are facing in our district, and I was there when we had officers there. I think we still need them there. I'm a strong advocate for the SRO officers in the schools. It's unfortunate, but that's what is going on, and I think, and I will reach out to my SROs, because I talk to them myself, to understand, this situation, but I'm not surprised because, to put on my colleagues' radar, males between the age of 12 and 21 they are the ones that's involved in a lot of crime right now in our city. And they're trying to figure out a whole mastermind project to help with this situation with bringing in community partners, where a lot of our community partners, our males, our ministers were left out and were not allowed the opportunity to come in and help in this space with those individuals. So moving forward, because the leadership has changed, we're trying to fix that problem so then we can eventually reduce the number of officers we got in that school. So I'm looking at him, but he always supports me as long as I do my research, and that's why I'm just letting you know, Charlie, that's where we're at with this. And the goal is to eventually reduce, so we don't, but we have a major issue right now with that age in our community. And the community is just getting the opportunity to try to fix it the right way because we've changed the board leadership and they're allowing us to do it now. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Just another note, they wanted to, we thought initially it was gonna start in January when the new agreements start, and they said, no, we wanna do it now.
Yeah, and I'm not
They didn't wanna
surprised,
wait,
because
so
we
that's
had a
why we're
rough
here
summer.
today.
We had a very rough summer with that age group. And then on one of the documents that said draft, you all still have the old superintendent. I know they still got a situation there, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention because the letter is from the interim. And so
Okay.
on some draft document, I can't think of the one that's on here, it still says Kelly Williams, and I just wanted to bring notes,
Okay.
so y'all make sure y'all change that
I
moving
will make a
forward.
note.
Cause I don't know where all that situation is, but I know the
Okay.
letter we got is still from the interim. So,
Okay, we'll
thank
make a
you.
note of that, and then, obviously, we try to double check it every time we do an agreement, so
Okay.
we'll do it with this, we'll change it for this one, and then see where we're
Before,
at
yeah, I
in
know they still
January,
got that situation too, so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, and I just wanted to share that information so y'all know what's going on.
Commissioner Cabell?
Thank you, Chair, and sorry for missing this if you said it. But 2 questions. One, would love to learn more about the Dickey Foundation and how drones are used for Marine Patrol, because I didn't know we did that. And the second question is about the overtime caps. Was this, what I think adds up to $60,000 or $70,000 incorporated in the budget we just passed? Request for overtime, right? If you add a $1.6 million overtime budget, does it now become $1.53 million?
Well, this is a standard that we have it's already in our budget, so it's not actually increasing our budget. We'll tweak the number, because each year they increase the cap, but it's already part of it, so we track it as a grant in our budget, so it wouldn't be part of our general fund overtime, because it's a separate funding source.
And so then to that, with there being limits on this, like a ceiling, is this something we do with our general fund overtime? Because this sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, well, it depends on what we have to respond to, so.
I mean, if the FBI can do it, can we do it too? Or has there been talks about that, or with CFO or finance about what that looks like, or is there precedent in other communities that do?
We have positions we have to fill. So
Sure.
if we don't have to fill them, then we don't fill them, and we'll cause overtime.
So you haven't talked about maybe having a ceiling on that overtime?
We can't put a ceiling.
Well, you could, it's just in a budget amendment, right? So, but that hasn't
Not
been a
if we,
topic with
not
y'all.
if we need the positions, correct.
Okay, got it. And then, can you tell me more about Dickey and how the drones work with the water?
The drones are used with the dive team and search and rescue. So
Okay.
that's what this one is for.
Okay.
They can go where people can't sometimes, a high overview.
Yeah.
Can get a good sight of where we need to go or
Okay.
where we don't need to go, so.
Okay.
And they're very effective.
But they're part of the Marine Patrol? Okay.
Yep.
And then the foundation, how did we get this grant?
That part I'm not sure of.
We didn't get it yet, it's an application.
Okay,
So
Thank you.
it's Lieutenant Burwell and his constant search for making the search and rescue team better and more effective and trying to find any source of any kind of funding, and he's quite amazing at it. So yeah, he comes up with, talks to people when he's out. They have a huge, obviously the Southeast Michigan Dive Group is getting fairly large, and so I think word of mouth of agencies that might wanna fund things, and so it's very, and he takes a lot of initiative in that area,
Yes, he
so
does.
we've applied for a lot of things, we've gotten a lot, and there's other ones that we haven't, so we'll wait and see if we come back with an award.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Would you prompt the vote, please?
I forgot about that button. Y'all told us about that. Sorry. I'm sorry, I forgot about that button.
You have 7 years of 0 names.
Motion carries, thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Our next, Commissioner Erickson Golf.
I just wanted to thank Under Sheriff Childs for providing all that additional information. That was really informative, especially for those of us who are relatively new to this
Yes.
process. We don't know
And
the
those of
history
us
of
that are
some of
old.
these programs, so
Thank you.
so I do appreciate that.
Thank you. Our next item is public comment. Is there anyone from the public wishing to comment? You would come to the front of the table and state your name and community, and each person has 3 minutes.
I do have something to pass out really quickly, if you wouldn't start my time on the
I
3
won't.
minutes. Thank you. Here you go. There's 7. All right. So my name's TJ Craven and I'm an attorney representing Clarkston Towing with regard to bid 000621, which was for towing services in Oakland County for 2 different zones, 2 areas that would be Independence and Springfield Township. Now, I sent emails to the commission with a briefing of what we found from the bid process, and you know, bids are fair. They're generally fair. And in this circumstance, it doesn't seem like the purchasing department necessarily dotted their i's and crossed their t's. Initially, we received our results. We lost by 17 points, I believe, or excuse me, 27 points for both zones. I filed a FOIA request and got all of the documentation on that FOIA request. And let's see here, I received the evaluation for Clarkston Towing, which is section 5 of this folder, and then section 6 is the other interested bidder for both of those zones. We were given 0 points in several sections. I then wrote a formal protest to the purchasing department, and in full disclosure, they sent me the protest, their answer to my protest. There are several big issues with that answer. First, they gave us 8 points, or excuse me, 9 points right out of the gate. So there were 9 points at issue that they said, oh, well, we overlooked that. That was not, that's on us, sorry. So at that point, we got to 70 points out of the possible 100. Then they said, well, you know, we didn't assess this based on zones or areas. We assessed it based on each bid. So they asked us to bid on an area, but they didn't assess us based on that area. They assessed it based on the entirety of the county. And in my opinion, really most importantly, Clarkston Towing submitted information for 46 trucks that were intended for use in the county. And they only include, the purchasing department only included, I wanna say 9 of the trucks, because they said that they weren't marked in accordance with, or that they didn't say Clarkston Towing on the side. Well, I'll direct your attention at least to the RFP itself, which is the first section of this document. Under section 3, it specifies that all included vehicles must be permanently marked in the bidding contractor's name in accordance with FMCSA DOT 39021. That's enough to bore a lawyer, so But as I specified in my comment, or at least in my memorandum to the commission, which I thank you all for responding, I was shocked by the amount of responses I got, so thank you for that. That section, do you mind if I take a few more?
You are welcome. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
The top one.
I appreciate that. My wife wouldn't let me keep talking, but I appreciate it. Under that section, that FMCSA section, which was put in the RFP, they allow for the use of DBAs and trade names, as long as they are listed with the federal motor carrier, okay? Clarkston Towing operates under one US DOT number, okay, which is commonly what a lot of businesses do. It's actually what all businesses do. They have, I think, 8 different trading names under that US DOT number. We have contracts with Lapeer County, Genesee County, sections of Oakland County that we've maintained for years, and it's never been an issue. Now, if the contract said, the RFP said, the name is, you have to have Clarkston Towing on the side of your trucks in order for them to be counted. I don't think we'd necessarily be here right now. But we were in accordance with everything in this contract, in this bid, and we were still not given the points that were justified. So really and truthfully, my clients have bid on this contract, I wanna say 4 times, 3 or 4 times. The last time they bid on it, their bid was lost. The only thing they got, the only thing that was received, or they said was received, was the cover page. And that would have been 5 years ago. They were then allowed to rebid, but they weren't rebidding, they were giving their additional documents, and they lost it by 1 point. This means absolutely nothing to the commission necessarily, because you guys don't have to spend any money on towing. There's no money that comes out of Oakland County to pay for this, but your constituents do. And Clarkston Towing offered more and you can review these documents, and please feel free to call me or email me at any time. Clarkston Towing's bid had more employees than any other bidder who submit a bid. They had more trucks than any other bidder, and most importantly, their prices were lower than any other bidder who bid on Independence and Springfield Township. On top of that, they're also closest in location than the bidder who won 5 different bid zones. Come to find out, again, another reason we lost the bid is because bid zones were not taken into consideration from this bid. So if you bid for one area, you weren't bidding against people in that one area, you were bidding against every single person. Well, the prices, unfortunately, for services are different in Ferndale necessarily than they are in Oxford or Lake Orion or things like that. But obviously, we believe we didn't get a fair shake, and when push comes to shove, purchasing didn't follow its own rules. I mean, points were excluded initially that they specified that we didn't receive, that, oh, yeah, you did receive them, but yeah, we're not gonna count any of your trucks because they're not marked in your name, but they actually are. So.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. You are very well prepared and have given us a lot of information to review. Commissioner Powell?
I know we can't go back and forth because of the timing and when he presented this to us, but I would like to ask Chair if somehow we can, if it's privy for us to ask for this, to get more clarification on this bid. And the reason why I'm asking is because I've had 2 bidders in my city prior to this, and we know the history with the county and the city of Pontiac, and he has been embedding this process of how he doesn't think it's a fair process. Be it that we've had other bidders from other communities try to gain this, he's always told me that there was concerns in the process. So because we have one now coming for us, I would love to now digest what that process looked like and, you know, where things and how they determine and whatever, because again, I've had 2 companies be slighted before, so I just would love to
Thank you.
have that request, thank you.
I would strongly recommend, because the purchasing is under management and budget and liaison committee is the finance committee. So I will definitely recommend the finance committee to take over. Of course, if there are any findings, your committee will be informed as well.
Thank you.
So would you recommend that they
Come to finance?
comment for a finance committee?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's fair, and I did forget to mention one thing, but I know you guys are thorough. There's 2 charts that I made in the last section, section 9, which specify the points that we were awarded and the points that are warranted. You know, I might look like a baby face because I am. But I've tried a lot of cases and I've been in front of different committees. There's always an Achilles heel in every single thing you do, especially as an attorney. There's always something they can get you on. Oh, you didn't get this. Oh, you didn't get this. I've spent more time reviewing this bid than I wish. I wish I could have the time back, frankly. But I don't see an Achilles heel. I really don't. I don't see how, under the terms of the RFP, that my client could have lost. And I'm not one to cry foul. If we lost, we lost. I'll take it and we'll do better next time. But when we won it and we actually lost it, there's a problem. So please feel free to email me or anything. I'd be happy to be on an agenda or public time works for me. Yeah.
Commissioner Powell?
And one more thing, I'm also want to put note, like, I agree, if we're trying to spread the wealth and make sure we share, opportunities in this space, it is kind of suspect to me, and it's just my opinion, that one bidder got 5 locations and they may not be in that zone. So I would love to also know why they did that with the zoning, when we have companies that's closer that can help with these constituents in those areas. So that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Who do we as commissioners project our questions to in regards to this matter? Okay, get from the committee perspective, but is it first having us reach out to our BOC staff and go from there? Excellent, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your time and waiting with us. You are exceptionally well prepared.
Oh,
so.
thank you. And one of my best friends is a commissioner in Lapeer County.
Oh,
So I was his campaign manager, so I understand a little bit of that much of how this works. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak at public comment? All right, public comment is closed. Our last item on this agenda is any other business? Is there any other business? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned at 12:08. Thank you.